To the cloud. Okay, hey, we're recording. So this is the Real Estate and Business Network. Today I'm the guest speaker. Hi, I'm Michael Klavan. I'm the owner of Adjusterman Public Adjusters. We settle large loss insurance claims. When it's broken, burnt or bashed, flooded, smashed or crashed, you definitely need a public adjuster here in Florida. Certainly if as Alex said a little earlier, Alex Johnson, our main host, said a little earlier, if you think that your loss is over a few $1,000s, you should certainly consider having a public adjuster assist you filing your claim, or an attorney. Recent changes in laws here in Florida with the passage of SB 76 have curtailed the activities of general contractors and mitigation companies to be able to address problems with your claim, or be able to speak for you or instead of you with your insurance carriers. That's certainly something that we see as favorable for consumers, and having somebody who's actually licensed represent you to your insurance carrier, as it should have been really all along. But today, primarily, my talk is going to be about what to do in the event that
unknown caller,
that you have an insurance claim. Turn that off. At least it's not the cat walking across the screen, right? So Zoom meetings, great stuff. So, and what should you do in the event that you have a claim? A lot of people think, of course, that the first thing that you do is run right out and start cleaning stuff up. And that could actually end up being one of the worst things that you could do. If you see something serious going on and occurring in your property, I recommend you to join with the millennials and what they do, and just whip a phone out and start recording everything. Take pictures, absolutely take pictures. If it's on fire or it's immediately leaking, you should certainly try and put the fire out or stop the leak as quickly as possible. Look around, find that water shut off, the main valve for the water for your property, your residence, or any commercial building that you're in, if it's a water issue. And certainly with the fire, if it's an outbreak of fire, you should take all precautions to protect yourself and immediately address trying to figure out how to put the fire out or calling the fire department. And then you have some damage. You could have something where a tenant's vandalized a property, or maybe a vehicle is impacted into a property, or tornadoes or hurricanes, as we have here in beautiful sunny South Florida. But these things happen, and they affect our residential and commercial property, things like yachts and boats and airplanes and inventory and warehouses and things like this. And so what do? Right? We have an insurance policy that we bought earlier, because if we have a mortgage on this stuff, there's typically a requirement that we have some type of coverage to deal with any potential loss. So we went and we bought the policy, and now something terrible has happened, as we discussed before. What do? How do you make that policy that says you're insured for a large amount of money actually make you whole for that large amount of money that you need to put that building back into service, to deal with all of the repairs, hauling away all of the debris, protecting that portion that remains, and then possibly storing that equity for some time until the supplies needed can be brought so that the repair and rebuild can occur? How do we detail all of that to the insurance carrier? I mean, that sounds like a lot of work and very technical stuff. And I'm certainly not an engineer, and I'm not an architect. And how am I ever going to do all of that? What do I do? Well, the simplest thing, once again, is to simply start by taking out your cell phone, turning on your camera, your video, and taking a video, walking around and showing as clearly as possible all the damage that you see as it's occurred, what's missing right then when it's fresh, whatever that may be. You might have been in a commercial environment, a restaurant, come in and the power's gone out and all of your inventory and your coolers is spoiled overnight. It's no longer serviceable. You might have had $20,000 in perishables. It's just gone, and you have to make a claim on that, or any other number of other things. You need to document the condition of the item or equity as it's been destroyed. Why is it no longer serviceable? Why is it need to be replaced, and what has occurred to damage it? The what has occurred to damage it is also very important to address as quickly as possible. This is called proximate cause, right? What is the thing or the event? What is the thing that failed or the event that occurred that caused the loss to happen? Obviously, with a hurricane, it's very obvious. What happened? There was a hurricane on this day and it ripped the roof off the property, and please give us a new roof, right? But sometimes that proximate cause isn't always obvious, as in the case of water damage. We might not know if the water is coming from a backup outside of the property, or flooding, or from a broken supply line or pipe. And so that sometimes can take some investigation. Could also be coming from a water supply or a water, like a water spigot, if you will, either in your refrigerator for your line going to your ice maker or your water maker, as we have in the doors, or what else do we use water for in a house? Water coming out of an air conditioning condensate line. We have to isolate and locate the source of whatever the cause of the damage is. If it's a fire, eventually a fire inspector will come out, a cause and origin inspector, and they'll conduct a cause and origin investigation, and they will try and determine if it was a specific product, a plug, an electrical appliance, a fuel source of some kind, arson, if it's some type of obvious damage where arson appears to be the case, or some type of criminal occurrence has also occurred, and a cause of origin inspection, if it finds that the thing that caused the fire is an appliance of some kind, they want to identify what that appliance is so that it can go into a registry, so that those appliances, if there are significant numbers of fires that occur as a result of this appliance, can be recalled, identified, and pulled out of the market, things like this. So those are really the two most important things that you can do after a loss, is document all of the damage as it occurred, immediately as it's occurred, and try and identify the source of what's happened to create that loss. After that, you're really tasked with, if you're trying to attempt to settle a claim yourself, establishing the scope, meaning everything that's been damaged, and the value, meaning everything that you're owed for after a loss, right? It's like if you're a project manager and you need to remodel a kitchen, well, now we need to do two things. We need to remove the damaged kitchen and maybe all of the smoke damaged appliances from a kitchen fire and all of the other stuff in a property. We need to remove all of that stuff. We need to seal all of that stuff. We need to dispose of all of that stuff that goes in the dump, things like this. So identifying all of the steps in what needs to be done to remove that portion of the insured equity which is damaged, store or preserve the remainder of that property, prepare for an insurance carrier's inspection so that they can also see the loss. Very important that we don't contaminate any loss situation. You want to treat a loss scene almost like a crime scene, in that you're preserving evidence. So anything that you detach or remove or use to put out or dry up or have to take out because it's water soaked, those items should all be stored and preserved to the best of your ability, because the insurance carrier has a right to inspect the damage. They'll want to see, show us that portion, the thing that's damaged, so that we can pay your loss, so that we can see what the damages are ourselves. And if we see things the way that you see things, we'll pay the claim. That's what the policy is supposed to do. And so then the insurance carrier will send out their own adjuster. If you call them and say, I've had a loss, and they'll send out their own adjuster, and that adjuster will go through all of the steps that I've just described, and taking evidence and seeing the damage in your property, and they'll submit their report to the insurance carrier and try and determine a reasonable settlement to pay you. It's a typically fairly long and difficult process. Even a small loss is 60 to 90 days. And there can be a lot of money involved. So certainly hiring professionals to assist you, architects, engineers, general contractors, plumbers, electricians, public adjusters, and attorneys is a very favorable thing to do here in Florida. And where public adjusters come in. We do all of the work of establishing the scope and value of your loss, of documenting all of those things that I discussed, so that they can be presented as evidence to your insurance carrier. They present the sworn proof of loss that your policy will require at some point, and that forms your demand for payment. And then public adjusters argue vociferously on your behalf to try and achieve that settlement. And these are the things that occur in dealing with an insurance claim here in Florida. You could go that route yourself. You can go that route by hiring a public adjuster or an attorney to assist you. But I would say that's a fairly decent overview of the claim process and the things that people should be aware of as they go to deal with an insurance claim from fire, theft, escape of water, vandalism, hurricanes, or tornadoes. Make sure that you document the loss. Make sure that you do the best that you can to identify the source of the claim. Don't damage the claim site or the claim scene in the process of preserving or defending the property. Try and keep that claim scene as immediate as possible so that the carrier can see the damage as well. Preserve the integrity of the loss so that the carrier can see it. Present the loss to the carrier and try and resolve your claim. If you aren't able to get a settlement from an insurance carrier simply by demand, there are alternative dispute resolution channels like mediation and arbitration and appraisal that a consumer, whether it's a commercial or residential property, can use to dispute with their insurance carrier. And ultimately, if those are unsuccessful, then hopefully an attorney would be able to continue that process and find some resolution for you through the court system. And this is how claims go. This is what happens in the course of the life of a claim and the things that you should know before filing a claim. Yeah, anybody, any questions? We all drive very carefully, I see. Hi, Adia, glad you could join us today.
Michael, I have a question.
Sure, Alex.
Specifically with regard to flood damage, are there particular timelines that the claimant is operating under?
There are. I don't know those off the top of my head. I can look those up for next week, but I don't know them off the top of my head. I will say that flood is managed as a federally managed program, and that policy does not give you the same rights as your homeowner's policy. Flood is managed under the FEMA, under the Federal Emergency Management Association agency, excuse me. And the benefits are all of the same, even though they are administered by different carriers. But the rules are the same for everybody in every state on flood. It's a necessary evil of coverage as well, and that it is considered to be not that great. It does not have the same rules of contiguity and scope as the homeowner's policy here in Florida. But certainly we live in a low-lying state, and most of the state, even though it's not all considered a flood zone, should be considered a flood zone.
And Michael, I've heard something to the effect of citizens saying that if you let them manage the repairs, you'll get more compensation. What are the pluses and minuses of letting citizens bring out their own contractors?
Well, you don't necessarily know who you're going to get. You cannot make changes to the property as you see fit, meaning after an insurance claim, an insurance carrier traditionally has been responsible for paying out a financial benefit. Here, this is the amount of money that it requires to fix your situation. Now the insurance carrier is saying we want to actually put it back together for you because we can get it done at a cheaper price. Well, who then is arguing on behalf of the consumer in terms of how much is damaged? The insurance carrier is going to send somebody out who is obviously motivated to do the work for the lowest price possible in the fastest manner. And is that always fair to the consumer or the right thing to do? They are offering policy discounts. They have limited coverage. It seems that the insurance industry always finds a boogeyman that requires them to raise rates and lower coverages. And whether it was the, the saying that there's frivolous lawsuits coming from mitigation companies, or too many lawsuits coming from attorneys, or we had hurricanes, or we had Chinese drywall, or we had any number of things. It seems like in Florida, the rates always go up. The CEOs of the companies always make very outsized salaries, and the coverages always go down, and that's very disappointing. We see caps on water coverages of $3,000 for emergency dry out and repairs, and $10,000 total for a property in the event that someone has water damage. And that's just not, it's not fully covering a property against the possibility of loss. And yet they're charging more for far less coverage. And so I don't think that that's very fair to consumers at all. And I've seen some just really horribly written policies. I saw a gentleman who had a $480,000 in coverage for the property, for the coverage A for the property, and they had $2,000 total coverage for water damage. And it was a specific exclusion that was specifically written into the policy. And this is that's a rare case, but just even the 3 in 10 limits, if you have a $300,000, $400,000 home, which is fairly common here in South Florida, which isn't even really that huge anymore, 12, 1,500, 1,800 square feet, but you have a $10,000 cap on water damages. $10,000 if you have water damage that occurs in a bathroom that affects the tile, or occurs in a kitchen, a higher end kitchen, or even a relatively nice kitchen, with cabinets and a stone countertop, where the cabinets have to come out and the countertop is damaged, or the water gets onto in the drywall behind that counter, and ruins a backsplash somehow. $10,000 is just not going to replace a bathroom or a kitchen or carpeting, or in a lot of cases, all of the wood laminate floor. I have a claim right now where the water has buckled the high-end bamboo floor. And the good news is it only appears to have destroyed the floor, but the unfortunate news in terms of the destruction caused is that all of the kitchen cabinets ride on top of the bamboo floor, so the entire kitchen has to be taken apart. The stone countertops are not likely to come out in one piece. The flooring is contiguous throughout the entire property, other than the bathrooms. So there's a lot of flooring, and then there's a lot of stuff on top of the flooring, like the baseboard and all of the contents of the property. And so to move all of that stuff out, right, we have to move it all out, just like we were moving a house from here to LA. We have to pack everything up, or at least pack it to another room for some period of time, and then we have to move it all back as we go. So that takes time. That's a lot of hours, physical labor, things like this, materials, the increased cost of materials, the increased cost in labor that we've seen, as we really have not kept up with our immigration, to bring new workers into the country that are more interested in labor jobs, and we turn more to an electronic and service economy, where it's people are making their money online, and things like this. Labor, skilled labor to put stuff back, becomes actually more expensive in the marketplace. So, $10,000 worth of coverage is not a lot of coverage when you're dealing with a home of more than 1,000 square feet.
Like the Florida basically is sitting on, for a lot of people, no choice but citizens at this point. Is that correct?
No, I mean there are private insurers and carriers in the state. They're doing business. You've got Allstate and State Farm and all of the majors. They do write here. Um, some don't write in every county, but most write, policies.
Somebody
The
was saying
issue
that wind
becomes
was,
the affordability.
it was wind or
Um,
water. One of the two was only covered by citizens. Now you had to have some sort of citizens coverage on top of your home and homeowner's insurance.
for water coverage,
I don't know if it's water or wind, but I understand
wind,
that citizens is kind of
the
is
hurricane
wind.
coverage is all
Okay,
from
so yeah,
citizens.
they're exclusively citizens now.
Mhm.
So they can literally, as a monopoly, just keep rising the prices and lowering the benefits and, well, screw you people, because that's just the way it is. With a monopoly, there's nothing you can do about it. And if you do,
Well, I'm not necessarily opposed in the case of insurance to a state-run monopoly. Um, because we are in a very unique situation in terms of where we live and the types of weather events that we face, and the losses. And if we were Louisiana, Louisiana is going to have a very hard time anybody buying insurance there. They've been hit by major hurricanes the last few years, and the damage has been pretty extensive, right? So when we look at their situation and what do we think will happen there, chances are you will have far fewer insurers in Louisiana. Well, you still have to have insurance on a property. We'll transpose that to Florida if that had happened here. You still have to have insurance on a property to be able to transact the property. So somebody's got to issue that coverage. And this is how we came to have Citizens in the first place after Hurricane Andrew. In my experience, Citizens is actually one of the better carriers to be with now, because they seem to be a bit better prepared and knowledgeable about how to respond in the event of a hurricane. So that's been pretty good. Sandra, I see you have your hand up. Or you
Yeah.
just waving high five? High five.
Well, I could give you a high five anyway. Yeah, Michael. So I guess when you mentioned this $10,000 coverage for water damage, if you were looking at the price of a house or value, is there a certain percentage that you should be using and calculating to cover those uncertainties? Is there like a $300,000 house, $30,000? I mean, truthfully, I am not in construction, so I don't know what it costs to replace bathrooms and kitchens.
Right.
And so that's one of my questions. Go ahead.
Previously, the way that a policy was written was that your coverage A, the primary coverage on the dwelling, paid up to the coverage limits for damage from fire, theft, fire, vandalism, escape of water, or physical damage, right? Vehicle runs into it or something else. Okay.
Could you
And so
clarify what escape of water means?
escape of water from an enclosed system would be water coming out of a place it's not supposed to come from. That can be
Bathtub, toilet, sink,
bathtub, toilet, sink,
water heater.
supply line, water heater, shower pan, but not a sewage backup coming from outside of the property. It can also be a blocked line
For like a
and
washing machine?
can also come out of the washing machine, but it could also be like if you got something clogged in the outlet for the shower and the water kept filling the tub and overflowed the tub, that would be covered typically, or an overflow from a sink, or an escape of water from an AC condensation line from your air conditioning unit. So these can all cause considerable amount of damage depending on where the water leaks and what it does for damage.
So that being said, in your years of experience, because you've been around a long time for escape, no pun intended regarding your age, but the water situations that you have experienced for your clientele, for a kitchen or a bathroom or something, like what kind of coverage would a policy need to have without thinking about external flooding, hurricane, that roof, whatever. Just,
If you have a nicer home, whatever the value of replacing your kitchen and your bathrooms would be, these are the two most likely places with water in them built in. And so these are the most likely places for water to do damage. And so if you had to completely replace all three of those rooms in your home, what would that cost? And that's a reasonable amount of what should I really be insuring? But really, it should just be that coverage A pays to the limit of the coverage. So if you have a property insured for $250,000 in coverage, then you should have $250,000 in water damage coverage, $250,000 if it's a fire that occurs, $250,000 if it's
really?
a vehicle that slams into it. It's only
Wow.
one money. You don't get, but coverage A is supposed to cover to the limits of whatever it says it covers for.
Okay, so the water damage that you're referring to would be within the confines of the house, including the
Correct.
vandalism, the damage, all that stuff.
Yep,
Then, then what happens once you're talking about exterior damage, the rain, the holes in the roof,
Well,
a
again,
tree
this is
falls, a
coverage
hurricane?
A, right? So this is coverage A, and coverage A covers the residence premise,
Mhm.
the entirety of the building, whatever that may be. And so we want that coverage A number to be applicable to as many perils as possible.
Mhm.
Fire, theft, windstorm, right?
Mhm.
Water damage. Coverage A, what are you covered for? I'm covered up to this amount of money, this big number, in the event that any of these perils occur,
Mhm.
with no discrimination, if you will, between the perils.
And so what about hurricane stuff? Is that also part of the 250? Or are we talking an additional add-on for roof and acts of God and all that kind of stuff?
So hurricane is a separate coverage under a separate
Rider?
rider. I guess it's issued as a rider, yes. And so that is to the coverage A limit for the property. I think if you're talking about contents, the stuff that's in your home or business, then you're looking at what the value is to replace your stuff,
Mhm.
whether that's your business equipment or your personal clothes and handbags and shoes and things like this.
Furniture, etc.
Right.
Yes.
So most homeowners policies, the coverage A is the value of replacing the property.
Mhm.
And that coverage applies whether the damage is done by fire, vehicle impact, vandalism, and typically water. But now, as we've been learning, the water coverages are often being limited to $10,000 of emergency service, $3,000 of emergency service, and $10,000 of total service in the coverage. And that
And you
is
pay more and get more?
no, you pay more, not necessarily, unless you can get to a different carrier that issues different coverage.
I
I'm
don't
not
know where
sure
we
with
were last
Citizens
time.
if they're issuing policies that cover more than $10,000 in water. I don't know.
Mike, we just had that house I bought in Deerfield. We put 25,000 in water damage, and that was separate policy from everything else in case
Okay.
the house ever flooded out.
Is that
and the
flood or water damage?
interior flooding coming from a water heater, or a
Okay,
broken pipe, or anything?
so
going-
escape of water coverage,
Right, of
because
course,
flooding is when the water comes in from outside the property.
it's also a non-lived-in construction property, so maybe that was the difference in the policy, that it
Could
was,
be,
we
so it's
weren't living in
vacant.
it, it was considered under construction.
Oh, you're in builder's risk.
Builder's
Mm.
rec, yeah, which
Yeah,
is
that's different coverage.
Different.
Definitely different coverage.
right, we put 25,000 on water, we put 20,000 on the roof, and we put 150,000 for fire and just fire.
Sure.
I think that we did them all individually, and then we didn't do vandalism, we didn't do this, that, and the other, which, you know, it's like, we didn't need anything else. Those are the three
Right, but
things
it's
we needed.
builder's risk. You're supposed to be in and out of there relatively quickly.
Right, 4 to 6 months we were in and out.
I would still carry the vandalism coverage because people tend to steal things from construction
Well,
sites.
here's the problem. We had vandalism on the property before that over here in Sunrise. We had a
Mhm.
duplex. And we had $10,000 in vandalism, zero deductible. They broke in, they stole all my tools, which I had photographs of and serial numbers. We had cameras in the house, which recorded them coming in and taking everything. And the insurance company says, sorry, we don't cover tools. We only cover the broken window and the door that they broke. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I should have read my policy more clearly, because I'm paying a lot of insurance for vandalism and you're not going to cover my tools. No, it's not covered. Only the window and that they broke to reach in to unlock the door. And the door jammed. They broke the refrigerator out the door. So yeah, that's all they cover. They wouldn't cover weird thing. So I guess I just got to read the fine print more carefully.
Sure, but you may find coverage for your tools through your homeowner's policy. How much did you lose in tools?
Oh, probably about 2,000. It was nothing big. I just went out and bought new tools the next day. So actually went to a pawn shop, bought like $1,500 worth of tools, and I was completely overloaded with tools.
And Mike, could you explain assignment of benefits?
I can. What time is it? How much time have we got today?
2 minutes. Well, you have as
I
much
didn't-
time as you want. I've got 2 minutes.
What's
more
assignment of benefits? Assignment of benefits is a misunderstood and often misused tool here in South Florida, where a consumer is able to assign the benefit of their insurance claim to pay a vendor for performing a service. It's the short answer.
So why are the insurance companies so upset about it?
Because by assigning the benefit to the service provider has then been empowered to bring suit against the insurance carrier if they don't receive the entirety of the bill that they submit to the insurance carrier. And the insurance carriers have been saying that this is what's been driving costs for them and driving claims, is when unscrupulous vendors present outsized bills for services rendered, and when they don't get paid, that they then bring suit, driving the insurance carrier's legal costs, when really it's my view that if the insurance carrier had simply paid the claim and paid the vendors in a reasonable and timely manner, that they certainly would have saved millions and billions of dollars on suits that were brought against them. But that's just my view.
Thank you.
Sorry, shouldn't
Well,
the,
no money
but
in my
shouldn't the insurance company be paying the homeowner that is made the loss, and let them pay the vendor that's doing the work? I mean, I don't understand the assignment thing.
So the assignment is so that the vendor can accept essentially a promissory from the claimant that says, I have insurance, and you can see my insurance company. You can send the bill to the insurance company and they'll pay you, so that a homeowner doesn't have to pay money out of pocket to a vendor to use their insurance benefit.
Aha. So is that the quote unquote typical way it's done in the adjusting world, is that there's an assignment of benefits? Like, for instance, you are in the middle of all of this, and you're not the one that's actually doing the repairs.
Correct.
So what I am not clear on is where you fit in the big puzzle of how you earn your living for your services. And if you work on a flat fee, a sliding scale, a percentage of the claim, because somewhere in the midst of all that, you have to get your fee.
This is correct. I actually work for Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
That sounds like a really good deal. I'll
It
keep
is-
that in
it's
mind.
Not a good deal. Not that way.
For
The
less than that,
actual,
I used to work for the Reese's mini peanut butter cups. That was
I'm sure you were a much thinner man then, Dave. So
I'm still thin.
So re how do public adjusters work in Florida? Public
Yes.
adjuster rates are capped by the state at 20% of the net of what a public adjuster collects for a claimant above their deductible. That fee is reduced to 10% above the net of what they collect above the deductible after a hurricane or a other declared state of emergency. The public adjuster is there to negotiate with the insurance carrier to interpret the policy language, the terms, conditions, coverages, and how they're applicable to the loss, and establishing the scope and value of the claim, both of the mitigation that needs to be conducted to either dry out or clean up whatever mess has been created, preserve the property or other equity until the insurance carrier can inspect the loss or the damage. And then the whole of the cost for the repairs, the permits, the trucking, et cetera, whatever needs to be utilized to make the claimant financially whole, right? We're going to have to go out and hire a bunch of vendors, architects, stonemasons, aircraft mechanics, whoever it is that we need to bring us the parts and pieces to make our thing back to what it was pre-loss.
So do
Right.
you actually do all that hiring, coordinating? So you're like the GC of repair?
No, you're
No.
strictly on your own.
Okay.
I am not a construction coordinator or project manager.
Okay.
It is my job to negotiate with your insurance carrier to effect the largest settlement possible from your insurance carrier, based on my own estimates and observations, as well as the input of licensed professionals where needed, architects, engineers, auto engineers, marine engineers, whoever that may be, to substantiate our claim for the scope and value of the loss.
Okay. So
I don't swing a hammer.
Okay, so I just want to, because I'm very mathematical, I'm just trying to understand this. So if there was $100,000 claim, what kind of deductible would a homeowner perhaps be responsible for before we have a net claim proceeds amount of which you get 20%?
Sure. Homeowners deductibles in Florida tend to be between $500 and $5,000 for all other perils, meaning fire, theft, vandalism, impact. It all depends on what the homeowner selects for their deductible. Obviously, the lower the deductible, the higher the monthly premium. The higher the deductible, the more risk that the homeowner is taking on themselves, the lower the monthly premium.
Aha. So that's a
Right.
mathematical equation that a homeowner has to do to make that decision going in.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, but Maritza, I see you raising your hand. I'll be right with you. Let me finish answering this. So the hurricane deductible is anywhere between 2 and 5% of the total gross insured value of the property. So if you have a $400,000 property insured at with a 5% deductible, then you have a $20,000 hurricane deductible. So your damage has to be significantly larger in that situation, right? If you had a $5,000 deductible, or you had a 2% deductible on a $400,000 home, that's an 8%. That's an $8,000 deductible versus a $20,000 deductible. So that's part of the equation as to when does the insurance carrier actually start to pay out the cash as well.
Okay, and then once you work out the deductible, then there's the net proceeds, and then of that you get either 20 or 10% according to the circumstances surrounding the loss.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you, Michael.
Indeed. Maritza.
So Michael, I thought I would share my experience because it sounds like Sandra actually has never gone through this. So I will talk to you guys as someone who's actually gone through a claim where I actually used a public adjuster. Some years ago in our condo, our faucet broke and we were obviously at work. I come home to find the fire department in my apartment. And I don't even remember the name of the restoration company.
Like it could be interesting if they're in like one of those calendar situations, little
I'm just saying that, so, but a restoration company and a public adjuster were already there.
Mhm.
So, which was helpful because again, the restoration did kind of help mitigate, but we still end up having lost all the flooring in, so it started in the guest bathroom. So the guest bathroom, the guest bedroom, the kitchen, and the living room. The only room that was untouched was our master bath, master bedroom, because of the positioning. But the
Wow.
public adjuster, again, was my first experience with a claim, an insurance claim, and then, this public adjuster, I was like, what's going on? I don't know who you are. And then he did explain, hey, listen, we're not, we're not working for I am not the insurance adjuster. I am a public adjuster. I'm here to help you to work on your behalf. And everybody should know, if you do not know, that insurance companies, the goal of an insurance company is not to pay any claims at all. That is their goal.
Of course.
Right? They are incentivized not to pay claims. So if you do not have someone on your side who has experience and knows what to say, because they're looking for certain words, and you can say things that may ultimately get your claim denied. And so that is why, having gone through that experience, at first I wasn't sure if it was worth it, but I can tell you it definitely was worth it to have the public adjuster. Now, Michael, I'm sorry I had to run off because I got a lead call. That's why I kind of missed part of your presentation. But when I came back, I heard you talking about the assignment and so forth. We didn't do the assignment. So I did, when we got the check from the insurance company, we had to end up doing like a reassignment of it, and so we can get everybody paid.
Right.
Because
some vendors are willing to work on direction to pay, and they're willing to hold their bill until the carrier issues payment. Some vendors will use assignment of benefits and issue their bill directly to the insurance carrier and pursue the insurance carrier for payment. There are a few different routes to go that way. Yes. Yeah.
So, but we did, because the insurance company took so long to pay, of course, because it's an insurance company, the restoration company ended up putting a lien on my property. I was there for like 2 days because I'm like, I got the notification. I'm like, listen, I just sent you guys the check. You need to remove this. And guess what? They didn't, because less than a year later, when I tried to sell my place, they still had the lien on it. I was like, what expletives I used? And they're like, oh, sorry, it's our fault. We missed taking it. I was like, what do you mean you missed taking it off? That's just not acceptable. So
no, it's not. And does that report in your credit anywhere?
It doesn't report on your credits only because it's attached to the house. So once I called them, it got taken care of like immediately, but I was very upset, obviously, because it was embarrassing, right? I'm trying to sell my place and you're telling me I can't sell my place because I have a lien because I didn't pay something, and you had my money more than 8 months ago. That's just not acceptable, right? So, but just wanted to share again I know Sandra's asking, like, what are you? Like, they are your advocate. That's what the public adjuster is. They're your advocate against the insurance company.
Well, this has been very informative, Michael, because I haven't been a homeowner for a long time, and I can see that one of the decisions in purchasing a home is really factoring in all the costs, the unexpected costs or the uncalculated costs of protection to protect your property. And I never even thought of like having $250,000 worth of insurance for any kind of whatever. I mean, I don't even have a clue, what that would end up costing, but I certainly can, after hearing Maritza's story, just envision your floor, your kitchen, your bathroom, the furniture, the moving, the shopping. I can see where if you don't have enough coverage you will be drained at replacing all of that, because you got to do all that replacement while they're sitting around waiting to figure out how much you're going to pay you. So you're really in a financial pickle between a rock and a hard spot, waiting for your claim to get settled. Meanwhile, you've got to rescue your home and get it back into livable conditions. So
It's been a
you're
very
making me want to
difficult.
keep renting.
Even if you're renting, you still should have renter's coverage
I
to
do.
protect
Yeah.
your goods.
I do. I have that, but you
Okay.
know, I can see where the big difference between a renter's policy and a homeowner's policy with $250,000 of coverage is a whole nother story. But it's okay. I'm very fond of a real estate investment because that's the business I'm in.
So
I just never sat down and did any insurance
when
calculation.
people are looking at the price of their property, right? What's the monthly bill? Can you afford the insurance? They can, they say, oh, well, it's a stretch, but I think we can afford the payment. If they don't
Ooh.
price the insurance and get a quote for the insurance to go with that, and suddenly the insurance adds, $200, $300, $600 a month to the cost of your calculation, that might be a lot more than some people think that they feel that they have for elasticity in their budget every month. I mean,
I could see that could be a deal breaker.
yeah. You can't afford the house unless you can afford the insurance.
Well, this has been really, really informative, Michael. I'm so glad that, having met you at Bria years ago, that I had the opportunity of this one-on-one, one-on-group interaction. And I'm sure those who are going to get the recording of this event are going to be very grateful for your expertise. Thank you.
Indeed. You're welcome. See you soon, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Next week. See you next week.
Thank you.
How do I spin the record? Stop recording.